Today we will delve into the case of a genius in the field of economics, who overnight spiraled into the path of crime. At the beginning of 2020, when the COVID pandemic broke out, a company in Nanjing planned a charity event to support Hubei Province. However, the company encountered a major problem. Over 19 million yuan had mysteriously vanished from their account. This account was highly secured, requiring 3 USB keys and a bank password to withdraw money. Furthermore, 3 different individuals held the USB keys, and the password was also divided among them. Only the chief financial officer, CFO, had access to the bank account. When the incident occurred, the company chairman tried to contact the CFO but received no response. Everyone assumed it was a time zone issue, since the CFO was reportedly on vacation in the United Kingdom and might not have been able to pick up the phone. The chairman decided to involve the police to resolve the issue. Initially, they speculated that the crime was committed by someone within the company. However, during the investigation, they discovered that the enormous sum had been transferred from the company's account to other accounts through online transactions. These transactions were executed on January 24th, 2020, 2 weeks before the incident was reported. After interviewing the security personnel, the identity of the perpetrator gradually came to light. On the afternoon of January 24th, 2020, a man around 50 years old arrived at the company alone. The security guard on duty at the time found it unusual and asked, "You haven't gone home yet?" After greeting the guard, the man headed straight to the surveillance room, turned off all the cameras, and stayed in the office for about an hour before leaving. Upon inspecting the company, the police discovered that everything in the CFO's office was missing, making the situation even more puzzling. Subsequently, Suanan, who was previously thought to be vacationing in the UK, suddenly became the prime suspect. Suanan's colleagues couldn't believe what had happened. They shared that Suanan lived in a luxurious mansion in Nanjing, a neighborhood reserved for wealthy families. Moreover, just 3 months after joining the company, Suanan had been promoted from an ordinary employee to CFO. His career was highly commendable, with a promising future ahead, making it seemingly unnecessary for him to steal from the company. However, when the police investigated Suanan's background, they discovered that the person in the photo they believed to be the CFO was not Suanan at all. The real Suanan had been a victim of identity theft. Someone had used his image to apply for the job. Even the master's degree certificate from Renmin University of China in the job application was forged. Not long after, the police tracked down the current residence of the imposter Suanan, a 40-square-meter rental in Nanjing rather than the luxurious mansion as rumored. All traces in the house, from slippers and towels to toothbrushes, had been meticulously erased. Even fingerprints and strands of hair were nowhere to be found. This indicated that the suspect was not an ordinary person, but someone with professional skills in covering their tracks, suggesting a possible criminal history. However, no matter how meticulous a criminal may be, they always leave behind traces. It didn't take long for the police to uncover clues. While assisting a colleague in fixing a chair, the police discovered a complete fingerprint on the chair belonging to the fake chief financial officer. Using fingerprint comparison technology against the national database, they identified the print as belonging to a previously prosecuted criminal. His name was Chen Ankui, a 40-year-old man from Hubei Province. Chen Ankui had worked in Shanghai since 2006. Coming from a rural background, he often felt looked down upon by others. To elevate his social standing, he falsely claimed to be a second-generation rich individual. In reality, his life was one of poverty and humiliation. He felt an intense urge to become wealthy overnight, to turn his fabricated identity into reality. One day, he noticed a colleague carrying 600,000 yuan in cash. A malicious thought arose, and he decided to steal the money. This action led to Chen Ankui being sentenced to 5 years in prison, though released after serving 3 years, but he failed to learn any lesson from the experience. 2 years later, in 2011, Chen Ankui applied for a position in the project department of a company in Sichuan through an online application. In his resume, he claimed to hold a degree from Yunnan University of Finance and Economics. He worked there for only 4 months. On September 5th, 2011, Chen forged the director's signature and stole the accountant's official seal. He then transferred over 7 million yuan from the company's account into 10 private accounts. Afterward, he fled to Chongqing, withdrew the entire sum, and vanished. While on the run, Chen was monitored by bank staff. Surveillance cameras captured his actions as he withdrew the money. enabling the police to trace his movements. During this time, Chen used multiple false identities to evade capture. His resourcefulness made him nearly invisible to those pursuing him. In 2013, Sichuan police conducted extensive search operations across several provinces and cities. After more than a year, Chen Anqi was finally apprehended in Qingdao, Shandong Province. He was sentenced to 7 years in prison, but was released early after serving only 5 years. However, his criminal tendencies persisted. In 2019, a company in Nanjing was recruiting for a financial accounting position. A candidate named Sonan, who was actually Chen Anqi, submitted his resume through the company's website. With undergraduate and master's degrees in accounting from Renmin University of China, Chen Anqi's resume immediately caught the attention of the company's leadership. The chairman of the board was particularly impressed by the applicant and decided to conduct a personal interview with him. During the interview, Chen shared that his mother was currently running a luxury goods business in Nanjing. After his father's passing, Chen decided to leave his position at a state-owned enterprise and move to Nanjing to support his mother. The chairman, moved by Chen's story, saw him as a capable, steady individual who was unlikely to change jobs frequently. Chen's filial piety and professionalism convinced the chairman that he was a trustworthy candidate. Chen passed the interview with flying colors and was offered a monthly salary of 20,000 yuan. Although his identity was fabricated, Chen quickly demonstrated his talent in the workplace. Within just 2 months of joining the company, he excelled in various tasks from legal knowledge to writing reports, repairing computers, and maintaining data. His skills and work ethic were so exceptional that they earned the admiration of all his colleagues. Chen's sharp analytical abilities and knack for proposing effective solutions helped the company win 2 legal cases. His humility and charming appearance made him a promising face for the company's future, garnering admiration from his peers. Within 3 months of joining, Chen met the qualifications to become the Chief Financial Officer, CFO, earning an annual salary of 360,000 yuan. After proposing a plan to overhaul the company's financial system, Chen successfully persuaded the leadership to upgrade the account security system from 2 levels to 3. In this new system, the 3rd level of security was managed by the CFO, a position Chen now held. This allowed him to monitor and control the company's financial movements. Now, after fleeing with the money he had recently stolen, combined with the 7 million yuan he had embezzled in Sichuan, Chen's long-held desire to live as a second-generation rich individual finally came true. He indulged in relationships with multiple women and squandered the stolen money on frivolous pursuits, resulting in total losses of 3 million yuan. The Nanjing company reported the case to the police 16 days earlier, and the remaining funds were unaccounted for. Upon reviewing bank transfer records and surveillance footage, the police discovered that Chen had transferred the money into shell company accounts and hired 2 individuals to withdraw the cash. The 3 met in Shenzhen, where Chen handed them the bank cards to make the withdrawals themselves. The 2 individuals tasked with withdrawing the money were apprehended. Upon investigation, the police discovered they were just university students. Chen had contacted them, offering a reward of 20,000 yuan if they used their personal information to withdraw the money. After completing the task, Chen gave them 90,000 yuan in cash. Chen had converted the entire sum of money from yuan into Hong Kong dollars and US dollars to facilitate his escape abroad. However, when passing through customs, the 23 million yuan in cash was seized and could not be taken out of the country. Chen Anqi sought a temporary job to evade capture, but deep down he harbored a long-standing resentment toward menial work. Chen often faked his identity, pretended to be wealthy, and exhibited ambition, all because he felt belittled when working part-time jobs, which wounded his pride. With plans to flee abroad, converting the stolen money into various foreign currencies seemed like a logical choice. However, the sum of 23 million yuan required him to pack the cash into an enormous suitcase. This suitcase inevitably drew attention from the crowd and the police. The police immediately began tracking Chen's movements using the GPS tracking feature embedded in the suitcase. During his escape, Chen continuously changed locations, moving from Shenzhen to Guangzhou. In each city, he booked multiple hotel rooms at the same time. On February 2nd, 2020, he booked several high-speed train tickets from Guangzhou to Changsha in Hunan Province. After a brief stay there, he boarded another high-speed train to Guiyang. By February 18, 2020, after gathering sufficient surveillance data, the police tracked him to Guiyang. They surrounded the building where he was staying. However, because they couldn't pinpoint the exact location and wanted to avoid alarming Chen, they maintained surveillance from the lower floors. 3 days later, on February 21st, a familiar figure appeared. Chen, now in disguise with a wig, still carried the large suitcase. The police immediately recognized him and arrested him on the spot. This time, the Nanjing police solved the case in just 10 days, recovering the stolen funds. More than 20 days after the incident, the enormous suitcase was finally opened, revealing piles of cash inside. It took 6 police officers 4 hours to count the money. They discovered that the 26 million yuan had significantly decreased in value due to currency conversion and interest rate fluctuations when exchanged for US dollars. When Chen was apprehended, a long-standing question the police had was finally answered. Since entering society, Chen Anghui had spent nearly all his time in prison. After his first release from prison and re-entering society, Chen managed to find a decently paying job and used 1/3 of his salary to pay for education. He enrolled in training courses for the Certified Public Accountant (CPA) exam and gained extensive knowledge of finance and law. Chen's sole hobby was reading. He delved deeply into books on business every day. His relationship with business managers gave him opportunities to engage with and learn from prominent figures in the field. His exceptional learning ability enabled him to pursue self-education even while incarcerated. Chen placed a high value on learning and was willing to invest money to enhance his skills. He frequently attended courses taught by renowned lecturers and applied his knowledge during his time working for a company in Chongqing. When he was the chief financial officer, Chen Anghui would always take a taxi from his villa in Nanjing to the company. Coincidentally, the location was also close to the CEO's home. So the CEO voluntarily gave Chen a ride to work every day. Additionally, to build a good relationship, Chen would buy breakfast for the CEO every day. However, in reality, he did not actually live in Nanjing. Chen had to wake up early every day and take the subway for half an hour to reach Nanjing on time, to avoid exposing his true identity. He rarely participated in group activities during working hours and never took group photos. After waiting for 5 months, the opportunity finally came for Chen. When the pandemic broke out, the company's account held a total of 20 million yuan. Chen needed 3 USBs and 3 passwords to access it, but he had long exploited relationships within the company to secretly obtain them. On January 24th, 2020, just before the Lunar New Year holiday, when the company was on break, he sneaked back into the finance office, turned off the surveillance cameras to commit the crime, and early the next morning, he traveled to Guangdong to withdraw the money. On February 26th, 2020, the police held a press conference to return the stolen money. 19 million yuan was returned to the Nanjing company, and the remaining funds were allocated to the Epidemic Prevention Fund. On December 21st, 2020, the People's Court of Nanjing sentenced Chen Anghui for theft, giving him a 15-year prison term and a fine of 800,000 yuan. Chen had great learning ability and a strong sense of self-discipline, but he couldn't control his vanity and ambition, and he paid the price for it. Just as the old saying goes, greed brings disaster. 2 gunmen from the CGNG cartel pleaded desperately for their lives, but the police forces in Morelos, Mexico, showed no mercy. Both were quickly taken down on the spot, while in Tamaulipas 5 other cartel members met the same fate in an unyielding crackdown by authorities. It's time for these criminals to taste the ruthless force they once spread themselves. These are moments when the cartel faces the fierce power of the police. On February 7th, 2024, a shocking video went viral on social media, capturing the cold moment when Morelos State Police held down and shot 2 suspects despite their pleas. Cries of "enough" escaped the mouths of the suspects in despair, but the gunfire continued until everything fell silent. This video stormed through public discourse, leaving many in shock and sparking fiery debate. Earlier in 2023, the CGNG cartel, or Cartel Jalisco Nueva Generation, publicly declared their sovereignty over Morelos State. They aggressively announced their intent to cleanse areas controlled by other gangs, even threatening to kill officials if necessary to achieve their aims. Morelos has a ruler, and that's El Menco. CGNG boldly proclaimed in a threatening video, stirring further fear among the people. In the video, CJNG's emblem stood starkly next to the Mexican flag. A row of heavily armed, masked members dressed in combat uniforms lined up solemnly. Their goal was to eliminate groups that falsely posed under their name, taking advantage of El Mincho's reputation. Ironically, while CJNG declared it would protect the police from attacks by rival gangs, they still often clashed with those they claimed to call allies. On January 28, 2024, two Morelos State Police officers encountered two CJNG members in a bloody gunfight right in the city. According to the State Security Commission, the clash stemmed from a shooting attack targeting a police unit, prompting an armed response. The suspects aimed at a police officer, but were ultimately taken down on the spot. A cinematic ending for those bold enough to challenge state authority. On February 18th, in the neighborhood of Lázaro Cárdenas del Rio in Querétaro, an intense pursuit aimed at capturing suspected gunmen unfolded rapidly. Their blue Cherokee SUV was chased down streets before confronting police at a repair shop. Footage of the chase ignited controversy as armed civilians were cornered and pleaded for their lives, yet police, apparently familiar with these insincere pleas, fired on. Images of the suspects' bodies circulated, showing them still clutching their weapons. Police claimed this proved they never truly surrendered despite their pleas for mercy. However, the Ministry of Security and other government agencies have remained silent, sparking public outrage and questions about the operation's legality. While investigations are underway, the public is largely showing support for the police's actions, seeing them as silent heroes willing to stand up to the CJNG cartel, offering a glimmer of peace on these violence-ridden streets. The violence in Querétaro has dragged on for years, forcing authorities to admit their inability to stop the reign of criminal gangs. On March 30th, 2022, a group of armed civilians suspected to be linked with the Gulf Cartel was traveling in a white Toyota truck along Miguel Alemán Boulevard in Tamaulipas, Mexico. Among them was a notorious female assassin named Mixi Padilla, also known as the Queen of Narcotics, and the girlfriend of Ivan Segura, alias El Tilín. Mixi frequently documented her life and posted it on TikTok, quickly becoming a popular influencer with videos featuring criminal activities and life within the Los Metros cartel. In a recent video, she confidently sang along to a Caliber 50 song, donned in a bulletproof vest embroidered with her gang's insignia, smiling smugly. But her joy was short-lived as a convoy from the Ministry of Defense suddenly arrived, turning the situation tense. A fierce battle between the military and the cartel erupted, transforming Miguel Alemán Boulevard into a brutal battlefield. Located near the U.S. border, this area has seen clashes that have become all too familiar to the people of Mexico. Local police, aware of their limitations in controlling cartel violence, called for military support. Soon after, gunfire erupted in a thunderous exchange between the two sides. Mixi, dressed in her personalized bulletproof vest, was ready to fight, but the vest was no match for the army's onslaught. The shootout claimed her life along with El Tilín, the group leader and his Gulf cartel, Los Metros bodyguards. The prosecutor's office later announced that the site would be handled by the Attorney General's office under the supervision of local authorities. Grisly images from the scene quickly leaked online, along with audio recordings capturing the gang members' final moments as they faced law enforcement. Among the victims was El Tilín, his blood-soaked body clad in tactical gear and adorned with cartel badges, symbolizing the victory of law enforcement. Photos showed the Toyota truck riddled with bullets, and in the background the desperate cries for help from El Tilín as he tried, but unsuccessfully, to call out their location to his comrades. The Gulf Cartel, infamous for its inclusion of female assassins, has become a symbol of rampant violence across media. Gang members frequently flaunt their arsenals, dressed in black with helmets, striking fear into the public. Yet after this clash, authorities have withheld information about the operation, leaving the public in suspense with many unanswered questions. This skirmish once again underscores the relentless conflicts between criminal groups as remnants of the Zetas and Gulf cartels continue to vie for territorial control. Tamaulipas is just one of countless fronts where criminal organizations battle for dominance through extortion and unrelenting violence. While both cartels face internal divisions and direct assaults like this one, but their influence remains undiminished, extending beyond Mexico's borders to neighboring countries like Colombia. At 2:36 p.m. on May 18, 2023, a black Ford pickup carrying 5 heavily armed men lost control and crashed hard into a concrete wall at a square in southern Nuevo Laredo, Mexico. Behind them, a convoy of military vehicles was in hot pursuit, heightening the tense atmosphere as if ready to explode. Immediately after the collision, an Army armored vehicle rammed into the Ford, creating a loud crash. Soldiers jumped out, surrounding and disarming the suspects in the vehicle, who were believed to be members of an unidentified criminal gang. Among the seized weapons was a Barrett 50 calories, a powerful rifle capable of taking down helicopters, confirming their connection to dangerous criminal organizations. Everything was captured by a nearby security camera, a seemingly insignificant detail that carried enormous power. As the soldiers executed orders on the spot, the grim reality of gang life and cartel brutality became unmistakably clear. After pulling the suspects out of the vehicle, they ordered them to lie on the ground, dragging them away from their weapons and tactical gear without mercy. A soldier who appeared to be the commander coldly instructed the suspects to lean against a wall. By 2:41 p.m., the military vehicle left, leaving behind a tense stillness. The commander continued communicating with his team, while another soldier stood guard behind the vehicle, eyes fixed on the road. Minutes later, the commander led some soldiers to another position, while others continued closely watching the suspects, with one even kicking them in what seemed like a release of pent-up anger. At 2:46 p.m., about 10 minutes after the crash, a soldier signaled toward nearby bushes. Instantly, everyone went on high alert, preparing for a possible ambush. Gunshots shattered the silence as the soldiers fired several rounds toward the bushes, while one soldier remained steadfast guarding the suspects. 2 minutes later, the armored vehicle returned. Suddenly, one of the soldiers opened fire on the suspects, followed by another soldier who discharged a few rounds from his handgun. The staged firefight went on for about 7 minutes, as if covering up the execution of the 5 suspects. By 2:55 p.m., one soldier placed a gun next to one of the bodies, his face expressionless. The security camera footage captured this grim moment as time seemed to freeze. At 3:53 p.m., medical personnel arrived, removing one wounded person from the scene, but the victims soon died en route to the hospital. The other 4 were already dead, concluding a life filled with crime, but also tragedy. After the medics left, the soldiers remained acting cautiously, as though aware of the surveillance cameras. At 4:29 p.m., 3 soldiers approached one of the bodies, one of them holding a pair of handcuffs. By 6:20 p.m., experts from the Attorney General's office arrived, and a report from Infantry Lieutenant Jose Luis Martinez Nava recorded every detail captured by the camera, including that they had administered first aid to the person with a severe head injury. However, the report did not mention the gun placed beside one of the bodies or the removal of handcuffs from one of the victims. Everything became shrouded in ambiguity, and questions regarding the Army's actions remain unanswered. The brutality of the gangs, the harshness of life, and hidden mysteries, each is a dark piece of the violent puzzle in Mexico. Jim Shed, a former DEA advisor, was interviewed by Mexican media via Univision, which exclusively broadcast the shocking video. He expressed his shock upon witnessing soldiers placing weapons beside the bodies of those arrested immediately after the shooting. The footage shows them using cloth or plastic to avoid leaving fingerprints, raising the haunting question: could this have been an extrajudicial execution carried out in cold blood in broad daylight, reflecting a severe lack of professionalism within the Mexican Army? Every moment of this process was recorded by the camera, serving as irrefutable evidence. The Mexican Ministry of Defense immediately responded, affirming that it would not tolerate any misconduct by military personnel and pledging that no actions contrary to the law would be allowed. However, when questioned, the Attorney General's office remained silent, refraining from any further comment. Under Mexican law, any abuse by military personnel against civilians must be tried in civilian courts. This was clearly an execution, and it cannot be tolerated. President Andrés Manuel López Obrador, AMLO, declared sternly at a daily press briefing. He asserted that those involved were in custody and would be handed over to the authorities. He also announced that the Ministry of Defense had proposed action concerning the crime of extrajudicial execution. The prosecutor's office will conduct a thorough investigation, and we are not covering up anything, as we do not tolerate human rights violations. However, discontent from the military rose following these statements. Lieutenant José Luis Martinez Nava, who led the military convoy that day, signed a report submitted to the Attorney General's office. According to his testimony, the military had been attacked by civilians while attempting to disarm the suspects. His tone seemed like that of someone trying to justify his actions. We were forced to respond when fired upon. Finally, he claimed that when the firefight ended, they found 4 of the 5 suspects dead, with 1 in critical condition. However, his account directly contradicted the footage captured on camera. Preliminary analysis and expert opinions from El País and Univision indicated no evidence that the soldiers were attacked first, completely refuting the official version that the suspects had fired first. Experts also emphasized that the weapon placements appeared deliberate, staging a false narrative of a firefight to legitimize a brutal execution. The Ministry of Defense pledged cooperation with the Attorney General's office to determine accountability. The military prosecutor's office swiftly launched an investigation after the video's leak, promising not to tolerate any misconduct by military personnel. In a resolute statement, the Ministry of Defense affirmed, "We are committed to the people of Mexico that all illegal actions will be punished." The incident has sent shockwaves, especially given that not long before, on February 26, 2023, soldiers shot and killed 5 innocent youths sitting in their car in the same area. A report from the Mexican government's Human Rights Commission later indicated that these youths were unarmed and were simply spending the night at a club. While these cases remain shrouded in complexity and exceed the ideals of law enforcement, public support for strong measures against criminal gangs is undeniable. A significant question looms over what will happen next in this brutal conflict as notorious criminals continue to shake the country. Time will tell, with another astonishing story unfolding before us about those whom criminal gangs should never have crossed. In 2015, a Mexican man decided to launch his own fierce battle against drug traffickers. Like a character from a dramatic revenge film, he carried a small hammer with him at all times, a haunting interrogation tool. In a world filled with gang members, anyone who refused to disclose information about drug lords would endure relentless blows from his hammer. Details about this man remain vague, but this isn't an urban legend. It's the true story of a brave individual who operates in the shadows, determined to bring justice to streets plagued by crime. In his initial raids, people suspected he was a Mexican Marine who chose the difficult path to do what was right. His methods were simple yet effective: capture a drug dealer, deliver a few painful hammer blows, and humiliate them by forcing them to dress as women, stripping them of all dignity. Once he even applied lipstick on them, making them parade around like emasculated figures. He earned the nickname El Marino Loco, meaning the crazy Marine, and this name quickly spread. Eventually, his true identity was confirmed: Eric Morales Guevara, a former infantryman in the Mexican Navy. In Tamaulipas, he became known as Thor the Mad Marine, or the Lord of the Hammer. In 2015, he was assigned to Tamaulipas, a region controlled by Julian Manuel Lois Arenas, known as Toro, the leader of the Gulf Cartel, one of the most notorious and violent crime organizations of the time. The Lord of the Hammer soon gained fame as he publicly showcased his raids on social media, posting images of the Gulf Cartel gunmen and leaders he captured, forcing them to dress in women's clothing. In these photos, he held up the small hammer he used to interrogate them, forcing them to put on makeup and even kiss each other after being captured. In an interview with Grupo Imagen, a Mexican media outlet, Morales shared why he was committed to hunting down and humiliating the cartel gunmen. He explained that these individuals often harbored sexist attitudes, and the best way to break their spirits was to force them to feminize themselves, a sign of weakness and defeat in their eyes. One of the most remarkable events in Morales' life was when he rescued a former U.S. Navy serviceman who had been kidnapped in Reynosa, Mexico, an event that marked the beginning of his nickname Thor, or the Lord of the Hammer. On patrol one day, he found a small hammer in a woman's house. When he asked for it, she handed it to him and said, "Smash them to pieces." From that moment on, Morales was resolved to raid the homes of cartel bosses, destroying everything they owned. One of his most famous operations occurred when he infiltrated the home of Silvestre Haro Rodriguez, nicknamed El Chivo, a Gulf cartel leader in Tampico. There he even took the urn containing the boss's father's ashes, a gesture that demonstrated not only bravery, but sent a clear message to those controlling the underworld. The fight led by the Lord of the Hammer wasn't just a battle against drugs, it was a crusade for honor and justice for innocent people. Each blow from his hammer not only inflicted pain on his enemies, but also brought hope to those who lived in fear. The criminal world may have trembled, but there stood a man ready to face evil with nothing but his hammer. Eric Morales Guevara, also known as the Lord of the Hammer, and the Mad Marine, continued his dramatic raids on the hideouts of top plaza bosses, including El Gringo. His relentless actions instilled not only fear, but also respect within the criminal world. For the gangs, Morales' ruthless tactics were tools that forced them to reveal the truth about their operations and associates. Each time he completed a mission, Morales filmed himself, sending a chilling message. "You all know my methods. You know how I work. If you cross me, the only outcome is a dead body. Let's begin the game." These bold proclamations were like sharp knives, piercing the hearts of criminals and making them tremble in fear. Currently, Morales' whereabouts remain an unsolved mystery. Many theories surround his fate. Some U.S. media sources suggest he may have been dismissed from the Navy due to involvement in corruption and illegal activities. Meanwhile, others speculate that Morales left the military voluntarily to pursue a personal mission. Still, some believe he continues his operations in secret, possibly even forming his own anti-crime group and quietly working in the shadows. Reports of drug dealers captured and dressed in women's clothing in the Michoacan region seem to support this theory, as the characteristics and interrogation methods bear the unmistakable mark of this former soldier. When Morales appeared, he didn't need to ask many questions. With just a cold, penetrating stare, criminals would voluntarily reveal all their secrets. Even the toughest criminals and local kingpins would become as meek as lambs. Morales often recalled the fiery hatred within him. No matter how many bribes, money, women, or other temptations were offered, he would simply say, "No." He would mark the messenger with a blow from his hammer, leaving behind a message: "Women, money, alcohol, or opiates don't satisfy me in the slightest. I want something else." Finally, the criminal gangs, unable to bear the presence of the Lord of the Hammer, placed a bounty of 5 million pesos, equivalent to around 280,000 U.S. dollars on his head. But in the eyes of the Mexican people, Morales remains a national hero, a symbol of relentless defiance against evil. Every step Morales takes resembles a never-ending battle, an endless journey between darkness and light, between crime and justice. When the Lord of the Hammer strikes, it isn't just the criminals who tremble. Society itself feels the strength of courage and the pursuit of justice. What do you think of him? Leave a comment below for everyone to discuss. Don't forget to support us by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. See you in the next video.